Picture this. You're on a beach. The salty breeze is blowing through your hair. The sound of waves crashing against the shore fills your ears, and the sand is warm beneath your feet. But this isn't a vacation. Far from it. World War II is raging. The air is thick with tension and the distant rumble of artillery fire. Soldiers are everywhere, preparing for the next big push. The beach is a chaotic scene of men, machines, and the ever-present threat of enemy fire. Suddenly, a giant wheel comes hurtling towards you. It's not just any wheel, it's massive, towering over the soldiers, and it's moving fast. The sight is both terrifying and surreal, like something out of a science fiction movie. This isn't some nightmare, this was the Panjandrum, a weapon so bizarre, so outlandish that it almost defies belief. Imagine a giant rocket-propelled wheel, designed to roll across the beach and deliver its explosive payload to enemy fortifications. This crazy contraption was a secret weapon. Conceived in the minds of British military engineers, it was meant to be a game-changer, a tool that would break through the heavily fortified defenses of the enemy. The British military designed it. They were always looking for innovative ways to gain the upper hand, and the Panjandrum was one of their most ambitious projects. Engineers worked tirelessly, testing and refining the design, hoping it would be the key to victory. It was supposed to win the war. The idea was simple. Launch the Panjandrum from a landing craft, let it roll across the beach, and watch as it smashed through enemy defenses. In theory, it was brilliant. In practice, well, that's another story. Did it? Let's just say it was more likely to give you a good laugh than strike fear into the enemy. The Panjandrum had a tendency to veer off course, often heading back towards the very soldiers who launched it. It was unpredictable, uncontrollable, and ultimately unusable in combat. Despite its flaws, the Panjandrum remains a fascinating piece of military history. It represents the lengths to which engineers and strategists were willing to go to find an edge in the brutal conflict of World War II. The sheer audacity of the design is a testament to human ingenuity and the desperate need for innovation during wartime. The Panjandrum was part of a broader trend during the war, where both the Allies and the Axis powers experimented with unconventional weapons and tactics. From jet engines to radar, the war was a crucible of technological advancement. The Panjandrum, though ultimately a failure, was a part of this wave of innovation. Imagine being one of the soldiers on that beach, witnessing the Panjandrum in action. The anticipation, the excitement, and then the sheer disbelief as the giant wheel careened wildly, often causing more chaos than it was supposed to resolve. It must have been a sight to behold, a mix of hope and hilarity. The Panjandrum's story is a reminder that not all innovations are successful, but each attempt brings valuable lessons. The engineers who worked on it learned from their mistakes, and those lessons contributed to future successes. In the grand tapestry of history, even the failures have their place. Today, military technology has advanced far beyond the Panjandrum. Modern weapons are more precise, more reliable, and more effective. But the spirit of innovation that led to the creation of the Panjandrum lives on. It's a spirit that drives progress, pushes boundaries, and continually seeks new solutions to old problems. The Panjandrum is now a piece of history, a curious artifact from a time of great turmoil and great creativity. Museums and historical reenactments keep its story alive, reminding us of the incredible lengths to which people will go in the pursuit of victory. So, the next time you find yourself on a beach, take a moment to imagine the scene. Picture the chaos, the innovation, and the sheer audacity of a weapon like no other. The Panjandrum may not have won the war, but it certainly left its mark on history. World War II was tough. The Nazis seemed unstoppable. The Axis powers were making significant advances across Europe, and the Allies were struggling to keep up. The sheer might and coordination of the Nazi war machine left many in the Allied command in a state of constant worry and desperation. Every day brought new challenges and setbacks, and the pressure was mounting. The Allies needed an edge. Enter the mad scientists. These were the brilliant minds working tirelessly behind the scenes, often in secret, to develop new technologies and strategies that could turn the tide of the war. They were the unsung heroes, the ones who burned the midnight oil, driven by a singular purpose: to defeat the Axis powers and restore peace to the world. Okay, not really, but close. These scientists were not mad in the traditional sense, but their ideas were certainly unconventional. They were willing to think outside the box, to push the boundaries of what was considered possible. They collaborated with military officials, brainstorming and experimenting with new concepts, some of which seemed straight out of a science fiction novel. Their work was a blend of ingenuity, desperation, and sheer determination. The British were desperate for anything to break through German defenses. The situation was dire, and conventional tactics were proving ineffective against the well-fortified German positions. The British command knew that they needed a game-changer, something that could disrupt the enemy's plans and give the Allies a fighting chance. The stakes were incredibly high, and failure was not an option. They needed to clear a path for the D-Day landings. Operation Overlord, the code name for the Battle of Normandy, was one of the most ambitious military operations in history. The success of the D-Day landings was crucial for the liberation of Western Europe from Nazi occupation. The Allies had to ensure that their troops could land on the beaches of Normandy with minimal resistance, and this required meticulous planning and innovative solutions. They needed something big, something powerful, something completely bonkers. The British scientists and engineers came up with a variety of experimental weapons and technologies, some of which were truly outlandish. From giant tanks to specialized explosives, they explored every possible avenue to gain an advantage. These innovations, though sometimes impractical, showcased the lengths to which the Allies were willing to go to secure victory. The spirit of innovation and the willingness to take risks were key components in the eventual success of the Allied forces. The panjandrum was basically two giant wheels connected by a drum. Sounds simple, right? Wrong. This thing was packed with explosives and rockets, lots of rockets. The idea was to launch it towards enemy lines. The rockets would propel it forward faster and faster, then boom, massive explosion, problem solved, in theory. The first test went about as well as you'd expect. The panjandrum, a massive rocket-propelled wheel designed by the British during World War II, was intended to be a game-changer. It was supposed to breach the formidable defenses of the German Atlantic Wall. The concept was simple yet ambitious. A large, spoked wheel, packed with explosives that would be propelled by rockets to roll across the beach and detonate upon impact with enemy fortifications, which is to say terribly. The initial trials were nothing short of disastrous. Engineers and military personnel gathered with bated breath, hoping to witness a revolutionary breakthrough. Instead, they were met with a series of comical and chaotic failures. The panjandrum, rather than rolling smoothly towards its target, veered wildly off course. The panjandrum was supposed to go straight. Instead, it went everywhere. The rockets, meant to provide a steady and powerful thrust, fired unevenly. This caused the massive wheel to wobble uncontrollably. It zigzagged across the test site, much to the dismay and amusement of the onlookers. The sight of this enormous contraption careening unpredictably was both alarming and absurd. It bounced, it swerved, it shed rockets like a dog sheds fur. The final straw, the rockets, which were supposed to stay firmly attached to the wheel, began to detach mid-operation. They flew off in all directions, creating a hazardous environment for everyone present. The panjandrum's erratic behavior made it clear that it was far from battle-ready. Each test seemed to highlight a new flaw, a new reason why this ambitious project was doomed to fail. It almost ran over the test supervisor. During one particularly chaotic trial, the panjandrum veered dangerously close to the observation area. The test supervisor, a seasoned military officer, had to dive out of the way to avoid being struck. This near miss was a stark reminder of the unpredictable and perilous nature of the device. The incident underscored the inherent risks involved in testing such an unproven and volatile piece of equipment. Needless to say, the panjandrum never saw actual combat. The project was eventually abandoned, deemed too unreliable and dangerous to deploy in a real-world scenario. The panjandrum remains a fascinating footnote in the history of military innovation. A bold idea that, despite its potential, was ultimately unworkable. Its story serves as a testament to the challenges and uncertainties of developing new technologies, especially in the high-stakes context of wartime.